Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to be doing a special selection now. We just got done listening to our first Lush production. Today's special selection comes at us from Ryan. It says, in honor of David Longdon, Big Big Train, The Underfall Yard. It's the title track of the first album to feature David as a member. They've released so much amazing music since this, but still might be my favorite album and song by them. Completely blew me away when I first heard it, and it still does. And for those who don't know, David Longdon passed away last week, a little over a week ago. So there were a couple of Big Big Train recommendations in the special selection list, and I've bumped them up to the top. We're going to go through them this week. So far, there's just two, I think. So we're going to have one today and tomorrow. But as I mentioned in today's earlier video, if any more come in, I'll probably bump them all up. And if we can get 4, maybe 5 this week, we'll just do a whole week of Big Big Train special selections in memory of David and his contributions to the world of music. He is he's the lead singer, as well as a bunch of he's a multi-instrumentalist. He does a lot of stuff, but he's most known, at least for me, in the few Big Big Train songs that we've checked out here, most known to me as the vocalist. So let's dive into this. We have The Underfall Yard by Big Big Train. This one is 23 minutes long, so, grab a seat, get comfy. Let's see what's going on. Dang, this is funky. Some really interesting stuff going on in syncopated cymbals, snare, bass kicks, drums are just all over the place. Yeah, real heavy piano presence as well, filling out that low ends. This stuff is intricately layered, that's for sure. And I love sort of the natural development we've seen from the intro to this section.
The skies and the road, somehow traveling far. Chasing the dream of the West, made with iron and stone. These are old hills that stand in the way.
Shifted off to a 6 pulse.
Came out of the storm, out of the sea. Using just available light.
Yeah, just beautiful vocal harmonies there. Yeah, that snare roll is real nice.
Of the land, breaking through the old stone. Chasing the trail of the water down through underground streams. Working the way through the
I think that last section is in 7 too. I was having a hard time really nailing down the pulse.
parting the land with the mark of man. Using just available light, he could still see
Did you hear that little bass run at the end of the last phrase? I mean, 11-8? Tearing it up on that guitar too. Yeah, using some jazz ideas of repetition. They do a fantastic job of creating these moods and effortlessly switching between them. Gotta have some keyboard in here. Yeah, I love the rhythmic synergy there between the guitar and the drums. Really cool. Almost felt like a descent, and we immediately got brought back up to this nice magical moment.
Just available light, he could still see far. He could still see far. He could still see far.
Yeah, that use of brass right there, to convey the largeness of this section. Yeah, that's a real quick and efficient way to disperse energy. We have another instance of a 6 pulse right here. This one's a bit more relaxed. Yeah, these vocal, I've praised Big Train for their vocal harmonies in the past. It's just gorgeous all the time though. And I love what the flute is providing in contrast to what the bass is doing. That they're really drawing a lot of this multifaceted emotional element into the atmosphere via those two instruments alone. Yeah, I like that too. It's a 7 pulse where the second half is accenting the offbeats. Yeah, that flute solo, man. I love how David can utilize both this really warm, almost vulnerable singing like this, and then also just belts it out at other times. Just a wide range in the vocals there.
Those days have gone.
Yeah, that right there.
Their names are lost. Their stories left untold. Those days have gone. Those days.
Yeah, that little bass gallop there that's so good.
The stories left untold. I'm going on.
Just how effortlessly they switch between all of these time signatures.
We are just moments of time. It is the end of the line.
Got a bit of a psychedelic twist going on. It's a guitar in the left pan.
Those days have gone. Their names are lost.
And I love sections like this where they take old ideas, like this the 7 pulse idea with the first half downbeat, the second half offbeat, and put it in new contexts. A lot of use of motif throughout this song.
A fault line opens in
how the music is all over the place, yet still retains a central identity to itself.
These things have faded with the light. Few know the stories now. This is the end of the line. Torn and broken. This is the end of the line. Time worn and broken.
Oh, whoa. Interesting. So we have an accent on 3 and the and of 4 with a softer accent on 1. Yeah, that was a bit of a trippy idea right there.
Under steel gray skies, he's drawn across the river. No band played, there was no sound. A sun ray met the dark of the fuller's earth. It is gone now, it is over.
Huh. Interesting decision. Oh, man.
All good things and everything. This used to be a railway town. Now we're traveling without knowing, without meaning.
Yeah, I'm here for this keyboard versus guitar. Just really nice counterpoint. I love how they line them back up every once in a while. It is such good melody writing.
Light bleeds from the wall, star across the Underfall Yard. Iron in the star is broken. That dream of the Western mind, searching for reason, is gone now.
Yeah, I'm really loving this combination of the strings and piano. We saw this earlier, a couple minutes ago as well. I don't think I commented on it though. I really love the atmosphere they can build with these two timbres, these two voices here. That's a new tone, isn't it? Oh, I thought it was a guitar, but it's not. Whoa! What? What a spicy little solo. I think at one point even went chromatic, but it worked. It just lined up so well. Yeah.
These are all places stood in thy way.
We'll bring back this idea to finish on.
Timberland with the mark on using just available light that he could still see far.
I love, there's so many elements in here. We have rising and falling runs. It drives a lot of the emotional elements in the atmosphere, and it's just done so well. Yeah, that nice little triplet feel in the bass kicks. There's so much to listen to right here. Yeah. I like that little run there on the ends on the glockenspiel, I think. Alright, pretty sure that runs that one out. Wow. You definitely, as Ryan said, left an impression on them when they were younger, and 100%. I'd be lying if I said this didn't leave an impression on me. And I was expecting this. Like, this is what Big Big Train is to me, especially their long epics. I don't think I've heard anything less than 10 minutes from them. But yeah, this is exactly what I was expecting, and I still got swept off my feet due to not expecting everything that I should have. Alright, so, as is usual with these lengthier epics, this analysis is going to be much more broader than typical. I won't be analyzing too many specific elements or even specific sections because there's just so much song. I can't remember all that off the back of one listen. So I'll be talking in larger, broader terms of what they're doing here and some of the cool things. So yeah, let's dive into that because this is a song. This is a pretty lengthy song, and I almost want to say it's more than a song, but I want to get into that in a little bit. We'll get to that. So there's a lot of things that this song does repeatedly very well. And most of them deal with soundscape. Soundscape is something that these guys are phenomenal at creating. When did this come out? Assuming that this is accurate, there is no date. Well, there goes that. Let me see. This album. Let me see if I can get some info on this album. December 15th, 2009. Wow. I mean, this is definitely the longest song by far, but they also have a 12.5 minute song on here, two sixes, a 7.5, and a 5. This is a lengthy album. There's 6 tracks. There's 6 tracks, and this thing is really pushing over to like 45, 50 minutes. Big train, never change. All right, so yeah, soundscape. That's what these guys really excel at. Part of that is going to be musical, some of that's going to be production, but even given how old this track is, I'm not sure. I looked it up because I was going to be like, where does this fit in? I know this was the first album with David. That's what Ryan said as the vocalist. But, where does this fit in with some of the other big train stuff that I've checked out so far? I don't know. I'm honestly not sure why I went and looked it up when I had no other information to gauge against it as a reference point. But they do a lot of things very well to create extremely lush soundscapes, to really fill up the sound in a manner that does exactly what they wish the music to do to the listener. So we have quite a few sections are heavily layered. Now, they don't always do this. They know when to layer things and when to rein it in. For instance, one of the most striking parts of the song was when we shifted down to just a cello, I think, and a piano, really filling out a bunch of this lower end stuff and creating this heavy contrast to some of the bright and cheery stuff we saw just before it. It is such a stark contrast that it immediately pops into my mind when I think about this song. So they definitely have their moments where, like, okay, we're going to back it off and we're going to go sparser, and we're going to use this sparseness to create contrast and to progress the story of the song. But a majority of these sections, I would say their bread and butter is layering and production, utilizing so many different voices. They have multiple vocalists. They have at least one guitar, possibly a second. They have bass. They have piano. They also have some sort of organ type thing, an electric organ. They also have strings. They have brass. There is a ton drums. I don't remember if I mentioned drums, but that's obviously there's drums in here. And then they also have auxiliary percussion stuff. I mentioned the glockenspiel at the end, but they also had some chimes. Could have been a sample, I suppose, but seeing some of their live performances over the years, they tend to have all of these instruments on stage, even if they're only getting used once or twice. And I want to touch on that as well, because I think that's an important aspect to Big Train's writing. It's what makes them feel dynamic. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the soundscape. During these very full sections, when we have tons of stuff going on, you can't just designate one instrument to a section. That is just not how it works when you have so many instruments. So you're going to be doubling up on tasks. Your drummer is most likely going to be doing some rhythmic work, but there's going to be several other instruments also working with rhythmic elements. Your vocalists are going to be doing lead melody lines, but they might not be the only one. You might have a guitar laying down some chords, but you also have strings. Are they doing melody? Are they doing chordal work? You have a piano. Are they doing melody? There's only so many things that you can assign an instrument to. You're going to eventually start overlapping on roles. And they are masters at knowing how to overlap roles. First of all, their melody lines. They don't always do multiple melodies. So how do you utilize multiple lead voices with a single melody? Harmony. Harmony happens everywhere in here, whether it is the vocals harmonizing with the piano, multiple vocals harmonizing with each other, strings and guitars harmonizing. There's so many moments where two or more instruments are playing the same thing, well, the same melodic line, but just up a few notes, all right, and creating that very strong element of harmony. Their harmonic element is just so good. They know exactly what types of harmonies, what kind of note relationships they want from the keys and chords that are playing underneath each bar, each note, to really bring out the emotion that they want from each section. It's not like they're building every harmony identically. A lot of older metal, and maybe even modern metal, utilized basically one chordal structure, one harmonic structure to build all of its chords off of, and that was the power chord, your root, your fifth, and your octave. And it's why a lot of the chords and harmonies in some older metal bands, especially ones that utilized a lot of power chord stuff and didn't really delve into much theory, why a lot of their music tended to feel kind of samey, at least to me. I don't want to, I tried to word that in a way that wasn't negatively speaking about that type of music, but there's definitely some bands that stuck very close to power chords. And when you stick to one type of harmony, at least to me, it gets a bit boring. You need some contrast in there. Big Train knows exactly what kind of harmonies they need to make for each section. They don't just rely on one or two, they have a wide understanding of music and how to create harmonies and play around with chords to pull out specific emotions, no matter how complex those emotions are, which is just they really dig into some really complex emotional stuff here. I wouldn't say any of these sections are singularly upset or happy or sad or anything. There's usually a few emotions that each of these sections are utilizing to create a complex idea. And this was like I said, I don't know how early in their career this was. This was when David just joined, though. So this is earlier in their career, and they've already got this down pat. This is exactly what I expect from Big Train, and it's so interesting to see this present earlier in their musical career. So early, I would say, in their musical career. Already there, like it was just part of the DNA of this group. It's fascinating. But aside from just harmony, which is one way to use multiple instruments in melodic manner, there's also counterpoint or counter melody, which is where multiple instruments have their own melodic line and they're played at the same time. And we saw this, the most prominent part, I can't remember what instruments they were. I want to say keyboard and guitar, violin and guitar, maybe. I don't remember. But they were just doing their own thing, but almost mindful of what each other's melodic lines were, in a sense that they never really stepped on the other person's toes. First of all, every note was harmonious. Nothing really entered into a realm of dissonance. So they were very conscious about what kind of dyads they were creating, what the other instrument was playing. When they were playing, of course, all this is composition. It happens before the performance, but I tend to talk about the music in the performance as if it's all happening live. It's just being improvised. I don't know why I talk about music that way, but I do. But yeah, there's almost no dissonance in this section. They're very conscious about who's playing what notes are being played where. Who should have emphasis, who gets a bit of the spotlight, so the spotlight can kind of jump back and forth, who's holding out notes versus who's doing runs, which is tend to be more attention grabbing, so that's more of giving them the spotlight. But it's also interesting how often the two lines will converge into a single idea and then slowly spread back out again and begin to do their own thing. Their counterpoint writing is just phenomenal. I absolutely love it. And I think at most we only heard two lines here. I would love to hear what they might do with 3 or 4 point counterpoint. I don't think in the least that they can't do it. I I particularly want to hear how they might handle it, and I'm sure there's a song where they have tackled some more difficult layering in counterpoint. But even just right here with the two instruments, and then whatever's going on underneath them as far as chords and rhythm and stuff like that, every single time they do it, it just comes together into this beautiful section, and it's just, I mean, big train, man. Their composition is just on another level. It really is. This is a band that I would absolutely love to just buy the sheet music for. I don't even need the album. Give me the sheet music. This is stuff that I would love to study. It is just, and I've only heard a few songs from them, but I'm just completely set that the few songs I've heard is entirely indicative of their style and their skill sets. It's just phenomenal stuff. So yeah, that's how you would do multiple melody with multiple melody lines. Chordal stuff, obviously just layer on more chords and create richer harmonies. Rhythmic stuff is interesting though. We saw a few sections in here where maybe the drums and maybe something more of a textural element would be laying down a rhythmically interesting idea that isn't necessarily contributing to the chordal work or the melodic work. And there's just these cool, it's almost like counterpoint for rhythms, where the rhythm of one instrument and the rhythm of the drums are not perfectly in sync with each other. They're not playing the same idea, but the way they're bouncing off back and forth on each other, it just creates really cool stuff, really interesting syncopations and stuff. So, yeah, just their ability to take so many voices and put them exactly where they need to be and not make the song too full or too cluttered. I mean, that's a skill all on its own. But I also want to commend them for doing something that I've talked about in the past that it just doesn't crop up too often in rock and metal, and that's timbre choice. This is a group that has a lot of instruments at their disposal, and they do not use all of them all the time. With rock and metal, you tend to have one instrument per role. You might have a lead guitar and a rhythm guitar to provide melody and chordal structure. You might have a bass to fill out the low end against the more treble-oriented guitars and possibly a treble-oriented vocalist. And then you have your rhythm section, which is your drummer. And that's a band. Everybody fills a role. If the bass isn't playing, well, you've lost your low end sound. That is not true here. I've mentioned that there's only so many roles instruments can take. So if you're going to have so many instruments as this band does, one option you can do is to double up or triple up on a role, such as multiple melody lines, creating harmony. However, you can also just opt to not let a voice be present. And the subtraction of that voice is going to add elements to a song. The addition of that voice is going to add elements of a song. The cello only showed up in a few places, but it brought about a richness. The string or the brass section didn't show up all the time, but when it did, it brought about a regalness, a larger than life element. It is very key to use the right tool for the job. And something about having a larger group and more instruments to choose from allows the band to really choose the right tool for the right job here. In a more traditional rock or metal band, the changing of the tools might be a vocal style or guitar tone. I know a lot of lead guitarists tend to have a solo tone and a lead tone so that they can change up the sound a little bit. But it's not as drastic as being able to add an entire new family of instruments, to add, strings, or to remove strings, or to add woodwinds, or to add brass, to opt out of using a guitar entirely and still have that role filled. It is a tool, an opportunity that rock and metal just typically does not have in general mainstream practice. It tends to be left for stuff like jazz and classical and basically any larger groups. And we just don't have a lot of large mainstream groups. And this is something that, as I said, Big Big Train excels at. They have all these timbres available. And they, once again, know exactly what they need, when they need it, and what it's going to do to the sound. And it is just, once again, just this innate ability to craft almost the perfect sound for a section. Previously, I talked about how they might use multiple vocalists, multiple melody lines, multiple rhythms. Here, it's about what timbres, what voices to use for a section to, again, bring out a specific emotion from the atmosphere and have the listener feel that. And all of this sort of brings up this idea of the soundscape, right? All of this ties into that. Production, I think, is another thing that falls into this, is that you have all of these voices, especially in the crazier sections, the much more denser, heavily layered sections where maybe they're including three vocalists, two types of percussion. We have like 5 or 6 instruments. There's a lot going on, and the production, the engineer, is the one who's going to make sure that it comes out as uh, a listenable, not a listenable mess. No, a very listenable piece of music that isn't an incoherent mess. Some of it is going to come about in the music, like I mentioned, when you have multiple melody lines, ensuring that the dyads that are being played, or triads, if you're going for 3 instruments, are harmonious. If that's the sound you want, if you want something that sounds, good and cheerful and bright, you're going to want harmony there. To making sure that when an instrument's doing a run, that other instruments aren't doing, as complex rhythmic elements that might overlap and contrast what's going on there. Some of it is going to be on the compositional side, but then you also have the production side, and that's making sure that every instrument has its place in the sound. Some, if they need to be pushed down a little bit and de-emphasized, if they need to be elevated so that they get more of the spotlight. There's just a lot of really good production choices being made here from the engineer. It is this Big Big Train is expertise, musical expertise on every level, and that is definitely what I have come to enjoy about them. Now, what all of this does, and this is like the big higher level concept that I want to talk about right here. What all of the layering does, and the production, and choosing the right voice for the right time, and all of that allows each section to go for a specific emotion. And as I mentioned, it doesn't need to be a singular emotion. There's a lot of sections here that are more complex, and maybe it's a combination of emotions. Maybe it's not necessarily sad, it's not happy, but it's a bit of pensive hopefulness, right? Maybe a melancholic hopefulness. And they just find such an amazing way to capture that essence in music, in their dynamics, in their voices, in the production. And what it leads me to see, and I'm going to explore this tomorrow when we check out the next Big Big Train song during the special selection portion of the day, is that to me, Big Big Train is a group of musical painters. I had the lyrics to this song in front of me. There's a lot of lyrics, and I tried to pre-read a few of them I made it about halfway through before I realized I didn't really get what was going on. It's talking about something in a lot of metaphor, but it doesn't matter that I don't understand the words. I was along for this entire journey. I was here for every moment that the story changed dynamically, when the emotions, the events, how I was supposed to feel. And I was here for every moment of it. I perfectly followed along what the story was telling me, what it wanted me to feel. And I was just as invested in this song, despite not knowing the lyrics, because of what the music was doing, between what instruments were being played, what the dynamic elements were, whether that was sparsity versus density, loud versus soft, lush versus, a bit more chaotic, bright versus dark, slow versus fast. Looking at all the time signature changes. Are we in something a bit more straightforward, like 4/4, or are we something a bit more disjointed? Like, I swear we were in 11/8 at one point in time. Um, all of these decisions lead to create these very specific feelings. And the music itself pulled me through these 23 minutes and told me a story that probably lines up pretty well with whatever the lyrics were supposed to convey. Because, like I said, there's still a lot of metaphorical ideas in here that are going over my head because I don't catch the references. But this is what I'm walking away. This is the third Big Big Train song I've heard, and 100% these guys are musical painters. They create very vivid pictures and feelings with music. And it is a shame, especially, that we lost David. His voice, his vocal work, both in this song and the one we explored last time, it was something about a spring. Hedgerow. Hedgerow. That might have been it. I think it was a song about spring, though. The versatility that he has in his voice, that he brings to each of these sections, whether he wants it to be, bright and infectious, or dreary and gloomy, or, whatever, menacing. He brings all that to the table so well. He, at least to me, is a strong part of the painting, of this musical painting concept. Um, and it is a shame that this world lost him. It's definitely, the music world has definitely lost a lot of talent due to his passing. All right, those are my thoughts on Big Big Train's The Underfall Yard. If you're still here after 50 minutes, thank you for sticking around. That was a lengthy song, and then a bit of a lengthy analysis as well. If you're interested in more Big Big Train, like I said, we'll have at least one more this week, tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, and then like I said, if we get more in, I'll definitely bump them up to the top of the list, and we'll check those out as well. Anyways, yeah, those are my thoughts. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought. If you enjoyed it or not, anything that might stuck out to you. If you have any context for the song, if you have anything that you just want to add, if you want to share your grief, or maybe a positive memory that you have listening to the band, or maybe you got to meet David or something, go ahead and drop that stuff in the comments. Right? We have if this is your first time here, and if this is your first time here and you're still here 50 minutes later, wow, thank you. Welcome to the community. But it's a very open-minded and familiar community. We treat a lot of each other like family. And if you start something, any sort of uh, anecdote about Big Big Train, or David, or anything about it, there's probably going to be a conversation struck up. We're very what's that word? Social community, which makes sense. I mean, YouTube's pretty much social media in a sort, but uh, yeah, go ahead and drop your comments. Like I said, I'm gonna read them all. I always read all the comments anyways, but I'm definitely interested to see if anybody has anything to say regarding Big Train. Um, as usual, in the description box, there's a link for Linktree. It'll take you to this menu, which has everything related to the channel. You can join the Discord community, which is an extension of this YouTube community. We talk about music and a lot of music stuff, which makes sense. But again, it's a very open-minded community. There's a lot of musical tastes there, and if you need a place that you want to just chill and talk about music and possibly listen to music, yeah, go ahead and click that. There's other stuff there, but I really don't feel like plugging it on this video. It feels kind of weird. But feel free to check that out. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC, with our next themed video. We're looking at Lush Productions, and then as I mentioned earlier, at 5:30 Eastern Standard, we're going to be looking at another Big Train. All right. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.